What is up, Bombad fam? This is your boy, the Canon Junkie, and welcome back to an all-new episode of the Bombadcast. Proud members of the Beyond the Blast Doors network, and there is a show for every Star Wars fan on your list on the Beyond the Blast Doors network. You have Around the Galaxy with Pete Fletzer. There is Postcards from the Galaxy's Edge with Shannon Morin. Holo Chronicles with Josh and Andy talking about those Star Wars collectibles. Beyond the Blast Doors Live, the only live weekly Star Wars news show every Thursday with David Amilati at sweet hunk of man meat with a tank top. And then, of course, streaming Star Wars with David Amilati and Pete Fletzer every Friday night, talking about all that Disney Plus Star Wars streaming goodness. That can all be found at beyondtheblastdoors.com, where you'll also find some articles and other fun stuff to kind of look around in. And if you like what you see from us and the rest of our lovely network family members, then you can support us at Beyond the Blast Doors Patreon. So you can be a patron of the show. You can give us money to act like really big nerds in our basement and talk about Star Wars and make 50 costume changes if possible. If that's your thing, sure. But tiers start at only $5 a month. Support content creators, and let's get on with the show. To the Bombadcast. Well, hello everybody. Let's bring in the one, the only, some might say Daniel Day-Lewis of Star Wars podcasts, Scotty Daniel Day-Lewis Jarod. How you doing, Scotty?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm feeling some Bib Fortuna love tonight, even though we're not even talking about Bib Fortuna. And speaking of our guest, it is not Bib Fortuna. It is the one and only Jarod the Dark Jedi for his second appearance in the Bombadcast in sequential order. Boom, boom.
Yes.
He is on this wonderful episode, Jarod the Dark Jedi. Jarod, what is going on, brother?
Nothing much. Super excited for this episode in particular. Had a lot of, if not traumatizing, but fun the last time I was around these parts. And I'm very happy you guys wanted to bring me around a second time. So yeah, very excited. Thank you for having me on again.
Dude, thank you so much for coming back on. Seriously, like, we had so much fun. You were a champ, but also we were like, hey, let's have you on for like an actual episode. And just to be safe, we are only doing audio so that Scotty, you guys don't have to endure that again. You don't have to endure the blinding light of the glorious physique that belongs to Scotty Jarod. So, yes.
Well, and I also felt like
good hamburger going on with that Elvis costume, but
I think there's also something really special about Jarod is that he put up with all this. So I'm very thankful that right now we have the opportunity to actually get insight from him, because on his show, the Nerd Academy podcast, which I want Jarod to tell more about, it's one of these shows that like has like 4 different voices. People always raise their opinions, and you know what? I tend to feel more of Jarod's side of the story. So Anyway, Jarod, tell us about your podcast, man. Where can people find you before we get started? So they'll have something to hype up to.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I host the 3 main shows in the Nerd Academy podcast network, for lack of a better word. Our main show, the Nerd Academy podcast, covers all fandom topics and news. We have our Star Wars specific show, Knights of the Nerd Republic, that you lovely gentlemen have guested on a couple times. And then we have our bi-weekly show, Campus Life.
Jerry has.
We were graced by Scotty for 1 episode so far, but I want to pull the hat trick and get you guys on again. And then we have our bi-weekly show. Oh, sorry. Oh, Kitty.
No, don't be sorry. He deserves it.
We have our bi-weekly show, Campus Life, where we all just kind of shoot the breeze and riff a little and talk about our weeks. And on our Patreon, we have a monthly Star Wars Versus series, which I do with Spencer Simpson. We have a lot of fun with that. We've done Anakin Skywalker versus Darth Maul, Obi-Wan Kenobi versus Mace Windu, Kylo Ren versus Ahsoka Tano, and then the match coming out on August 1st is going to be Count Dooku versus Exar Kun, which is available at the $5 tier of our Patreon.
Wow. Go check that out for sure. Holy cow, that is insane.
But
that's a lot of
our Bombad fans like those kind of things, and I know that for a fact. Like, people love the discussion of battles and things that are bizarre and weird, and that is definitely up our fans' alleys. I can tell you that much.
Take like the canon versus legends and all that stuff. So
yeah, that was the fun thing with this most recent one with the Exar Kun versus Count Dooku, is that we really got to dive deep into the Legends continuity, and Exar Kun is one of my favorite Legends characters. So yeah, lots of fun stuff coming out of the Nerd Academy. We love talking all fandom, and like Scotty was saying, there's a lot of different opinions kind of circling the wave pool. You have me, who's an ardent supporter of the sequels, who comes from a very Legends heavy background. Here's a couple people here and there who aren't super into the prequels but still like them. We have a couple people who are super not into the new canon but aren't dicks about it. So yeah, there's a lot to.
It's funny how that can work out. How you can not like something and not be a dick about it.
Yeah, it's crazy. Definitely. Yeah, like granted, Mike Doling, Darth Id, as we like to call him, he and I have our repartee where we like to, in a joking way, bully each other about our differing opinions on Star Wars, but it never goes anywhere past light joshing, knowing that we both respect the other one's opinion very much.
That is awesome, man. That's exactly what you need. That was one of the fun things about Star Wars, back growing up and like in high school and college and whatever, like sitting around like the lunch table, right? And like talking about what would happen. What about this? What do you think about this character versus this character? Things like that. That's why I think podcasting hits so like the right spot for a lot of people. Like, there are so many Star Wars podcasts. There's so many different conversations to be had. That's why there can be so many. It's because we really like to have those conversations. They just don't happen very well over Twitter, right?
Yeah,
like
that's an understatement.
Especially of differing views. Like, people tend to get very like precious and like be like you were saying, be dicks about their opinion. Well,
and the lunch table thing you bring up is very apropos, because with the exception of Connor Chikiti, who befriended all of us with the last podcast network we were with before we went solo, all of us grew up together. We all went to high school together.
Awesome.
We've all known each other most of our lives. So it's literally that lunch table conversation, but brought to the podcasting format.
I love that. I love anything like that, because it's really important to have those discussions and be around the people that you kind of watch develop their opinions on Star Wars too. And it's funny, since Jerry and I have started podcasting, we've seen and we've been around a bunch of people that have, it's okay to change your opinion. And that's one really big thing, because this episode right here we're about to have is a lot about that, a lot about changing your opinion, because my opinion on this character was significantly different from the first movie compared to his last movie. And this episode, we're talking about the one and only Kylo Ren / Ben Solo. To me,
/ baby Uwu.
There we go.
Very big baby Uwu.
Okay.
Baby Uwu.
So I kind of wanted to start this whole discussion off with one little thing. How did your opinions change as you watched each sequel trilogy? And maybe you can give us a little bit of a layout, of where you were after The Force Awakens, then TLJ, then Tross. And since Jarod is our wonderful guest, and Jarod actually is the brainchild of this discussion, Jarod, how has your opinion changed essentially from film to film?
So all the way back, like when the first teasers for The Force Awakens were kind of slow dripping out. At the time, I was still kind of firmly in the, I'm excited for more Star Wars. I'm excited for new Star Wars. However, I still had that bad taste in my mouth about Legends being taken from canon. So with every trailer, I warmed up to the concept of these new movies, and in particular Kylo Ren, progressively. As somebody who, as far as Star Wars goes, my bread and butter is Jedi and Sith philosophy, Jedi and Sith martial arts, the weapons and technology therein. I'm that lightsaber junkie. And I remember when that first teaser came out and we saw him kick on the crossguard, I was among the people who were throwing an absolute temper tantrum about it, and I hated it. Which today is so, like, that's practically a different human being. I was like, oh, it looks goofy, whatever. Right. And then we saw a little bit more, and then that first trailer came out from Celebration, and we heard him do the whole nothing will stand in my way. I will finish what you started. We heard him do that for the first time, and we saw the Vader helmet, and I was like, oh, hold on. And as somebody who, until Kylo Ren, Darth Vader was my favorite Star Wars character. And that whole idea of him being this successor to Darth Vader, not just in a thematic sense of, oh, he's the new big bad with a cool ass helmet and a black cape, where I was like, no, he's literally continuing Vader's work. It immediately won me over. And, with the whole lunch table discussion stuff leading up to it, this is my moment to not so humbly brag. I called the entirety of The Force Awakens. We had a lunch table.
Oh, man.
We had a lunch table conversation where we were like, okay, what do we think is going to happen? And with Kylo specifically, I was like, this is the new version of Darth Kaitis. This is the son of Han and Leia who's fallen to the dark side. Only unlike the old canon, he's going to kill Han. And
wow, damn!
How long before the film?
We had that conversation like 3 days before the movie came out.
Dude,
and I was going into it. I was like, I think I'm gonna like this guy, but I want to see more. And I saw him catch the blaster bolt. And then I saw him walk away from it, and with no physical gesture, without concentrating on the blaster bolt, keep it suspended. And that was the moment I was like, this guy isn't to be trifled with. And as the movie went on, you start to realize, like, this guy is deeply tormented. There's a lot going on with him psychologically. And I immediately fell in love with him. And in the immediate aftermath of The Force Awakens, I was one of the people who did think Rey would be related to Luke in some way. Part of me expecting, okay, the logic of if he's the new Darth Caedus, then they're going to do Rey as being Jaina Solo, but from Luke's side of the family. Obviously, I was wrong. And I wasn't quite a Reylo yet. And part of me wanted to see that journey happen like it did in Legends with Kylo Ren being the new Caedus, dying evil.
Yes.
About a year had passed after The Force Awakens, and I started questioning whether or not I wanted to see Kylo die a villain. And kind of slowly but surely started drinking the Reylo juice. And like a lot of Reylos, were very happy with The Last Jedi, in that, as far as I was concerned, Reylo was confirmed in The Last Jedi in the nature of their connection, and the way that Rian Johnson had talked about, the way he wrote them. The hand touch scene was the closest I could get to an SEX scene in a Star Wars movie comment that Ryan had made. I felt like it was made abundantly clear these two had some amount of affection for each other. And I was very happy with The Last Jedi and was very much looking forward to how you redeem him here, and recognizing that he could have a very, very unique story of redemption in the wake of The Last Jedi. So at that point, Kylo is officially my favorite Star Wars character. And going into The Rise of Skywalker, there were some character beats that I thought were kind of redundant, that I didn't think needed to be there. For example, the whole helmet coming back. Sure, bring the helmet back. I think weirdly having the helmet be rebuilt during the movie made it not work for me.
Yeah,
and the whole helmet thing is part of his.
I'd agree with that. I think if it would have been there from the first moment, like he rebuilt it after Snoke, I would. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
I would be down with that. With him being kind of like an F you to Snoke, like I'm gonna be who I want to be. This isn't to hide. This is who I am. Kind of a thing. Trying to hide his true emotions, right? Exactly.
And as the conversation goes on, I think the helmet plays into his psyche in a very important way, and to how he manifests the Kylo Ren persona, which we can save for later in the conversation, of course. But all in all, I got to see him redeemed. I got to see that Ben and Rey did truly have feelings for each other. The concept of the Force dyad, that not only did they have this profound Force bond, and not only did they have those feelings for each other, it was almost as though the Force knew before they were born these two are meant to be together, which I found to be a very beautiful story, a very unique story. One that, again, harkens all the way back to Legends with Revan and Bastila Shan. This story has parallels, but it is very unique in its execution. And Ben Solo deserved better, and hashtag Ben Solo lives.
Nice.
I love everything you said there, Jared. Yeah, definitely. Jerry, do you want to give your little opinions?
Yeah. I'll go ahead and give mine before you get ready to shit on everybody and stuff. So I'm just kidding. I'm joking. I'm joking. I have to say, Jared, that my journey with the character of Kylo Ren Ben Solo is very similar to you. I came closer to Bendemption a little more after Last Jedi. It was honestly I loved Last Jedi. And to me, to this day, it is still one of my favorites. But again, Force Awakens, I was one of those fanboys at first, not fanboys, but I was one of those guys at first that was like, oh, he killed Han, on screen. by the rules of movies, he's probably going to have to die or something, or he might die bad, because that is like crazy. But had the prequels come out before the original trilogy, then we would have thought the same thing about Vader, right? Well, Vader, of course, is Anakin, but him killing Obi-Wan, right? And things like that, it's just, that's what happens. Han was the Obi-Wan of that trilogy. So I had a little, I wasn't like, if it doesn't go this way, I'm going to be ticked. But I was kind of on that train at first. And I was also, Jared, on the Rey is Luke's daughter train, because it was very it almost felt overt to me at the beginning. It was very paint by numbers, but I was like, okay, so that's like you were saying, it's the Darth Caedus and Jaina Solo kind of a connection and stuff. And so I was like, okay, I'm down for that. Let's see. And I honestly still thought that she could have been related even after I watched Last Jedi. But again, after Last Jedi, you have the period of what would you even call that period of fandom online? The
menace?
Great Fandom Wars, the Great Menace. Yeah. No, they're not great at all. The rise of the fandom menace. Yeah. That whole, and I'm sorry I even spoke the name of Lord Voldemort on the mic. You can beep it out, Scotty. But
okay.
Write it down, the timestamp right there. Okay, good. Through defending all of that and talking with people who were talking to Reylos, and honestly, my cousin-in-law, she's basically my little cousin. I love her to pieces. She's awesome. She was a huge Reylo and stuff. Would tell me at family get-togethers and stuff, hey, so I've been reading this stuff on Reddit and all this stuff. And would fill me in on stuff. I'm like, yeah, I know what you're talking about. I don't know if I really believe it. It was funny because she read it. She was talking about it before we even went to see Last Jedi, right?
Oh, wow.
And we went to see these movies with
Last Jedi Reylos are a different breed, and our kind is the supreme Reylo.
Well, and see, I didn't even get started on Star Wars Twitter until after TLJ, honestly. So I didn't know. I was just, I didn't know it got really bad for nothing excuses people treating Reylos and women, frankly, online the way they do. It's just completely uncalled for. And so I got online mainly because my friends didn't like The Last Jedi, so I didn't know who to talk to. So I was like, I'll go on here and see if people like it. And a lot of people did. And see, I'm going to interact with these people. And then you get into the fandom wars and stuff, and just conversations with people. And I would rib. I was saying on our way to Last Jedi, I was ribbing and joking with my cousin, saying they're not no, that's Luke's daughter. Before I knew that stuff was a thing that people were gonna harass people with, right? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's now looking back on it, I'm embarrassed that I was doing that, but at the time it was all good-natured fun. We were both going back and forth. But being online, talking with people of different opinions and thinking about things and re-examining these movies over and over and over again. By the time I went to Celebration, I was full on Bendemption. Whereas at the beginning, I thought they were going to end it. I just thought they would go a little different and end it a little bit in tragedy. But again, at that time, I thought, well, the last Skywalker is going to be Rey and stuff, which it is what it is now. She kind of is, but I don't know. I remember I went up to Lacey Gillerin at Celebration. I was like, Lacey, I'm on the Bendemption train now. And she's like, yeah, because Lacey's big about that and stuff. But when I went to see Rise of Skywalker, and I went to see it a few times, and before I went to see it with that family again, and I went to see it with that cousin of my wife's. Well, the whole family went, and she's talking to me because we talk about Star Wars, and she goes, so like at the end, oh, well, when they kissed, actually at the end of that, she looked down at me like, ha. And afterwards I was like, I'm fine with it. I like it. I'm for it, man. Heck yeah. Reylo, let's do it. That's awesome. I love this. I love the connection. I love that it is literally across the stars and stuff, like the music used for Anakin and Padme. It is like they're the balance incarnate, right? They're light and dark balanced, which again, I don't think it's like an equal. I've never been on you gotta have an equal number of lightsiders and an equal number of darksiders. If that's your thing, I apologize. I don't mean to offend your opinions, but it's wrong.
There is a balance though to Ben and Rey.
Anyway,
like in Rey, you have a hero who is truly pure of heart, who has darkness deep within her that for the most part goes untapped.
Who can touch the darkness and walk away and not be tempted by it. No, that's not for me.
Where with Ben, you
love that about her.
Where with Ben, you have somebody who's forcing darkness upon himself, who has this just very bright light inside of him that he is actively suppressing. There's this reverse nature to each other that makes them that perfect cohesion, that they're almost the other one backwards.
I absolutely love the whole dyad concept too. And honestly, my headcanon on the whole Rey as Palpatine's granddaughter thing from TROS, I know people kind of attribute that JJ said that's JJ's answer for why she is so powerful is, she's Palpatine's granddaughter. To me, that is the mindset of, that's the flawed mindset of Kylo when he's like, he's being manipulated, and Palpatine. That's the bad guys, and Ben trying to be a bad guy, trying to say like, no, your power comes from that old bad dude because you need to turn. And honestly, the power to me comes from Ben and Rey. That is why they are both so strong in the Force, is because they have each other, because they are a dyad, because they're two halves of the whole that is extremely powerful. And to me, that is a way better explanation than, she's Palpatine's granddaughter. Because I honestly was like, what? When it happened at first I was like, Scotty can tell you, I called him like whenever I could finally talk to him, I was going insane. I watched it twice on opening night, the first time I've ever done that.
Same here.
And I was going insane. Dude. I had to talk to somebody. I'm like, how do I feel about all of this? But the first time, I'm not going to lie, I had a feeling in my gut the first time he said, you're a Palpatine, it sounded so clunky at the time that I was like, what? The more I've pondered on it, the more, again, I've come to my headcanon. I'm watching, I actually have Rise of Skywalker on right now, going in front of me here to just kind of seep in that Ben Solo goodness, right? Like to get as much of it as I possibly can. I do agree though. I will say this. I want more good Ben Solo content, because that small morsel we got at the end of Rise of Skywalker is so juicy and good. I want so much more of it. I want so much more of it. And I'll say the Good Boy sweater is even cool too. I mean, I just like the whole thing, man. Him like running in there Han Solo style, but with the Force like blasting that dude from behind, and like the whole sequence is amazing. I wish there was so much more. I would have added like 15, 20, 30 extra minutes to Rise of Skywalker if it were me, and just put more Rey and Ben and have time with them together, like going farther and explaining more maybe of the dyad or whatever, like maybe, I don't know, just I would have loved to see more of him as Ben Solo, like having actual conversation with someone, because that would have been, how interesting would that have been? You have this character who's been trying so hard to be evil, who's done horrible things, but did them, was basically gaslit into doing them, right?
Yeah, that is
like he was
huge
manipulated.
Point in Kylo Ren's
He was
arc.
manipulated, and yes, and as soon as he finds that out, like you can almost say like Rise of Skywalker, he's like, okay, wait, what? At the beginning, and then for the rest of the time, I promise I'm gonna let you talk, Scotty. I promise, but it'll probably be the next episode. But that whole sequence at the beginning where he finds out that like Palpatine has been basically, you got to think he's heard of Palpatine, right? Like he knows who Palpatine is. He knows who that is. And I'm sure Luke told him about like that final confrontation and stuff. And Leia, think about all the crazy stuff we haven't gotten yet. The juicy stuff that could be in a novel or something. Like I'm just drooling right now. Just think, it's almost like you see his plan kind of change. He loses his game, like you were saying, Jarod. I'm sorry, I didn't forget your name. My brain just kind of like stopped for a second. Like Kylo Ren stopping a blaster bolt. My brain just like, so. Anyway, dude, the whole Kylo like rebuilding the mask. Why is he rebuilding it then? Why is he doing all this? He needs a poker face, right? He doesn't know. He's very conflicted in The Rise of Skywalker to me. I know he's trying really hard at the end. He's like, I'm going to try to be bigger and badder than Palpatine, right? But there's just something about it that just really strikes me as, I feel like at the beginning of that movie, and I'm kind of just coming to this, and Scotty, you can talk next episode. You can, I just feel like he's really trying to play up. He's conflicted through the whole film. And anyway, more Ben Solo, baby.
You know how long that was, Jerry? That was your longest yet. You know how long that was?
20 minutes.
11
20
minutes. 11 minutes straight. 11 minutes.
I set the precedent there. That's on me. Sorry for hogging airtime.
No, not at all.
Jared, just never let it happen again. It's my soapbox. Okay. Now, Scotty, do you have anything to add?
Yeah. The one thing I will add is the character, like, and I know most of people in here know what the word crescendo means, but crescendo is when music elevates to a certain point where it's super loud, right? That character for me literally crescendoed perfectly. Like, if anything the Secret Trilogy did right was that character through and through. He is one part Anakin, he is one part Luke, he is one part Leia, one part Han, he's one part, he's just like all these characters like thrown into one. Add that confliction, add that past, add the family history. I mean, this character was destined to fail, but it's also this character was destined to come back again, like his father before him. And then Luke in his own weird way. Luke had a fall, but it was because of Ben. And there's a really important thing that needs to get brought up. Luke did save Vader from the light, but you gotta bring up the fact that Luke did bring Ben to the dark. If it wasn't for Luke, Ben wouldn't have had such a drastic change, Snoke,
that last
Palpatine.
Little push.
Yeah, and if it wasn't for Luke's mistake is what caused Kylo Ren, and that's a very important thing to be brought up. Luke essentially made the Vader of this trilogy, and for the longest time, I'm like, he's not the next Vader, but I kind of sit on it. He really is the Vader of the trilogy in the sense of like, he kills Han. I guess in a weird, not technically, but in a weird way, Leia dies at his hand. The end of her Jedi path is at the death of her son, I believe is the exact phrase, right? Was that what Luke said to her?
Like her Jedi path ends with the death of her son.
Exactly.
It would end in the death of her son. So that's why she gave it up.
Yes. So it's really kind of cool because it kind of reflects on the prequels. You know, Anakin has that moment where he's like, I foresee Padme's death, which is caused by Anakin. Therefore, Leia has this same vision later. She has this vision that her death is going to be, her path is going to lead to his death, you know? And then Rey picks it up. But you have this character that perfectly crescendos from, you know, the A movie to the B movie to the C movie in terms of plot. Like, they really did elevate this character perfectly. And at first, you think Kylo doesn't need Rey. Then in TLJ, you think, okay, they kind of need each other. Then by the end, they're so tied in together that they are almost a dual protagonist. And we've never had that in Star Wars besides Anakin. Anakin was a literal turn. Anakin literally went from being Anakin to Vader, whereas Kylo Ren is this weird thing where you see it progress beautifully, like the most incredible progression, where you have him in the first movie, like, you know, like, you need a teacher, you know, and you see that little bit of Anakin in him. Then by the next movie, he's like, join me, like, please be with me. That's that we need to rule the galaxy together. Then by the end of it, he is abandoned the Kylo Ren thing and he's taken on the full Ben Solo, you know, title. And I don't know, I was struggled the first time I watched The Force Awakens when he killed Han. I'm like, oh man, this guy's never going to get redeemed in my eyes. And then TLJ comes around and he ends up, you know, accidentally causing Leia's, you know, moment of, you know, I guess when she gets sucked out of the Raddus. But in my head, I'm like, oh, that's it for Leia. And then, you know, of course she comes back. And then by the end of that movie, when what Luke does to Kylo Ren, I'm like, oh, he can't be redeemed now. He's going to die evil because his uncle pushed him to the edge and threw him off and confused him and really damaged him. Then by the time Tross came around, I don't know, I was in the middle. I'm like, he's going to be redeemed or he's going to stay evil. And I was fine with either way. But what we got was ultimately not what I expected and what I needed to see, though. You got this redemption through Rey. This redemption came from this person he has been seeking after for so long. It didn't come from Leia. It didn't come from Han, though they did help. That redemption ultimately came from Rey. And of course, he ends up, you know, fulfilling Anakin's destiny, which for some reason I think is debated right now. But I really do think Anakin's journey was to save the one he loved, which is exactly what Ben ends up doing with Rey. And I'm not one, I would never call myself a Reylo. I think the art kind of gives me the heebie-jeebies. That's just me. I don't know. I don't like
you'll
looking
be won
at
over to our fold very
you can
soon.
be a Reylo and not. Well, yeah, you're gonna be Googling it after that. No, I'm the art's kind of cool. I don't know about like I'm not much into the erotic ones, but to each their own, I say.
Listen,
well, anyway,
you can be a
I'll
Reylo
give you
light
that. I will give you the very horny Reylo art can be a lot sometimes.
I hate those. I hate going through my feed. I don't care who you are, I instantly either unmute you or I unfollow you entirely because I don't know. I don't like seeing them on my feed.
Cater your social media experience. That's fine as long as you're not going on there being a dick to people.
Now I know like Jared. Now that Jared knows this, I'm gonna end up getting DMs of the Reylo art.
The most graphic Reylo art I can find.
The most hardcore, like.
So real quick to tie up my point. I don't know. I love.
Scott, why are you so red? Sorry, I'm just joking.
To tie up my point here, I really do enjoy Ben Solo as a character, and like I said, if anything, I don't think it's a valid argument to say the sequel trilogy sucked because of this one character. Honest to God, this one character truly just completes it for me. He is the perfect descendant of two heroes. He's the perfect descendant of, you know, Anakin, and like. It works. I think it just works great. He's got something that most characters don't have in modern storytelling. Like, this is a good point. There is no Ben Solo in any other franchise. Like the Jurassic World franchise. Nothing can compare to that character. There is no character that good in that franchise. The new Fantastic
Don't
Beasts.
talk bad about Chris Pratt like that.
There is one.
You know what I mean?
There is one character who very closely parallels Ben Solo, and that's Zuko from The Last Airbender. And they follow a very similar path. But still, this type of character is still a unicorn in modern fiction.
Yes. And I think that's the most important thing is that Star Wars obviously needed new characters that were different than what we had before, but it 100% needed, in every way possible, needed something that was really refreshing and really at the same time similar to what we know before. And the dyad thing is a good point. I could talk about that later. But the dyad thing
makes sense as a sequel too, right? To the story that came before. It's like we had the happy ending in Return of the Jedi. Where do you go from there? And now we know essentially the story of the sequel trilogy is basically Palpatine's ultimate revenge on these people who took what he felt was rightly his away from him. So he's like, I'm going to be real petty. I'm going to be a petty little diva and turn your son to the dark side. And like, just really like, it's really dark. And it's a dark ending for the Skywalkers to a point. But I feel there's still that glimmer of hope, especially with Rey.
They are.
And Ben, even though I feel like we should have, I feel like there should have been more with him, and I want more with him.
Ben Solo lives.
Well, and I'm like, he is a Force ghost, and I really don't know why they didn't put him at the end with Luke and Leia. I know she was burying their sabers, but if have him fade in last.
Because Ben Solo lives, baby. He's not gone. He's not gone. Yeah. He's in the world betwing worlds. He's alive. You can't change my mind.
So
he's alive. He's in the world between worlds.
Right. Well, so say it's like he's got to be his personality is retained in the Force, if you ask me, because he disappeared. Like all the other people who turned into Force ghosts. Like he is one with the cosmic Force now. So he's hanging out with Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan and Yoda and Luke and Leia. I mean, it's awesome, you know, and Leia's Force projection of Han is there. You know, they kind of use him like an Alexa, you know, like, hey, Han,
bring our son home.
It's raining men. Yeah. It's raining men. Hallelujah. It's raining men. Grumpy. I don't really know where that came from. I apologize.
I love that.
That's bizarre. That was nice.
That's all that was. It was, anyway.
I don't know. I think it's really important to bring up the fact that he has a name change, you know, like we get with Anakin and Vader, you know, but it's a reverse. You know, we get Kylo Ren, which is a great name still. And I think he'll always be referred as Kylo Ren, unfortunately. But to the fans, Ben Solo is an important thing. And how did y'all? I want to hear Jarod about this because I've never heard Jared's opinion. When Han yelled, "Ben!" What did you think? Like, my brain in the theaters was like, yes, his name's Ben because of Obi-Wan. Like, what did you think of that moment, Jarod? I thought that moment.
I melted, man.
So, my brain, I had like two thoughts practically at the same time. Where Ben, and I went, oh, like Obi-Wan. That's really. Can I drop a bomb? Is that allowed? Am I allowed to drop a bomb?
Yeah.
Drop a. Oh, yeah. You go ahead.
Where I went, oh, he's named after Obi-Wan. That's so cute. And I went, fuck, I was right. No. Like he went, Ben! And I it was as he dropped his helmet on the catwalk, I under my breath went, shit. And just stared at the screen, whole body clenched. Man. I was like, "Oh, you're not gonna survive this one, buddy." No wonder you were so happy on the press tour because you knew your ass was dead.
Yes.
Yeah, there's what is the thing they did? Was it UNICEF? They would have the things like basically give us money and you could win these awesome prizes. One of them was like going to the premiere of Force Awakens with him, and like there was that ad for it where there were two kids on the computer like video chatting with someone, and like Harrison Ford pops up behind them all, the happiest you've ever seen. It looks like Harrison Ford pretending to be Mark Hamill or something, or like him pretending to be Ronald McDonald the clown. He's like, hey, Star Wars, you want to go to Star Wars with me? You know? And it's like, you son of a gun. You got what you wanted. You got what you wanted. There you go. Are you happy? Go put in your earring. You're done.
Go crash Jarod, a plane with your earring.
Go crash. Go fly your World War II era airplanes and crash land them on golf courses. You action hero, you.
I don't know. I think it was a weird moment for everyone. Because the name Ben, I mean, you instantly call back to A New Hope, and that movie was a big callback to A New Hope in its own weird way. But that moment's when I was like, oh, what a great use of, they didn't use him. They didn't call Obi-Wan. That would have been too much. Ben is just so, it says so much. Obi. I don't know. I think
like,
the name Ben's,
dude, what if he was like, Rio.
Rio.
That's a deep
my.
Well, right before it, when he like stepped onto the catwalk, like for a millisecond, I was almost like, "Oh God, don't say Jason, don't say Jason, don't say Jason." Like, let it be a little different.
I was dreading that too.
I was like, let him be a different character. Like, don't call him Kylo Ren and not Darth Caedus if you're gonna call him Jason. Ben, that's oh no. Well, but there's something beautiful to him being named Ben, and you'll have people try to do Leia never really met Obi-Wan Kenobi, so I don't understand. It's just horse shit.
She knew who he was.
Yeah, well, the whole idea, and go back to help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're my only hope. That the idea that she had this child and they agreed to name him after her hope, and that
so awesome.
That like and if there's one idea and theme and emotion that is core to Princess Leia's existence, it is hope. And naming him Ben is practically naming him hope.
Yeah,
and that he carries that legacy of, this family is hilariously dysfunctional, and the power that runs through this family can go awry so quickly and so violently and so malevolently. But through it all, there is hope. Through it all, we can save the lives that need saved. Not everyone's going to make it out alive, unfortunately, but we can get people out in one piece by the end of it. And the fact that, again, you have this character who is just steeping himself in the dark side, trying to create this masquerade of villainy, when at his core, he is hope. He is the idea that no one's ever really gone. And that's again, like every little thing about Ben, like and Kylo as a character runs so deep. There is so much to him that is rooted in the symbolism and motifs of Star Wars. Very, very close friend to the Nerd Academy, Girls with Sabers. People call them out and say that they look way too deeply into the stuff they talk about when they bring in mythology and color theory and all of these things into their discussions about Star Wars and the sequel trilogy. But they're right. Everything they say is right. That is, like, he's meant to be that. Like, this goes all the way back to the inception of Star Wars, to the Campbellian hero's journey. It is steeped in that folklore, in that, ancient fiction. It's all intentional, and it's all done on purpose. And, like, his name, there's so many levels to it. Just his name.
There is. And And it's funny because Ren and Ben, you know, you couldn't get a word that's very Star Wars is Ren, but a word that's very, like you said, almost bizarrely, you know, normal and easy to associate is Ben. And like I always thought that was interesting. Kylo Ren, you know, it has to be it has to be something fake, you know, that's no way that's that character's name. And of course we get the reveal Ben Solo in the first movie, and then I love that Rey refers to him as Ben as well. That's a very important thing. That's, I think, in his little brain, that's what, like, he's like, oh man, she keeps calling me Ben this, Ben, I saw you turn, you know, all of that. Like when they touch that moment is super important because, you know, she calls him Ben the rest every time she sees them. You're a monster, you're a snake, but you're also you're a good guy. You for some reason you are of good people, you know. And
yeah, she calls him murderous snake in Last Jedi, and then right now she's about to heal the giant snake on Kasana. Yeah, which is very symbolic and foreshadowing. Yeah. I absolutely love it.
If you really want to talk about the symbolism of that scene, and I apologize again, I keep hogging airtime just because I get excited to talk about Kylo.
No, take it. You're the guest.
The thing that I think makes Kylo Ren so incredibly unique, and Scotty, you touched on this, where Kylo Ren is simultaneously this incredibly fresh character, but there is a familiarity with him. And that is born of the fact that Kylo Ren is Darth Vader backwards.
Yeah.
With Anakin, you have somebody who is prophesied for greatness, born into nothing, scooped up, brought on this journey, loses his faith in all of the institutions around him, and at the end of the day, a possessive and romantic love causes him to fall to the dark side. But by the end of the story, it is a familial love that brings him home and lets him wash his hands of like the vile acts that he's responsible for and clean up his own mess. Flash forward to Ben. We have somebody who was born into an incredible privilege and incredible notoriety, who is just expected to become great. And through his loss of faith in his family and because of a feeling of a lack of familial love, which is exacerbated by Palpatine and just by Han and Leia not knowing how to raise this incredibly powerful individual, and exacerbated by Luke falling into the same traps as the Jedi of old. Luke Skywalker in The Last Jedi is Obi-Wan Kenobi. Star Wars is like poetry. It rhymes. It's fun to make fun of. It's a silly quote from George Lucas. We all like to make fun of it.
That's a damn good one.
But it's true. And The Last Jedi is one of the rhymiest Star Wars movies of all time because Luke is Obi-Wan. They're the same character. They do the same thing. Where Obi-Wan created Vader, Luke created Kylo Ren. And because of that lack of familial love, Ben falls to the dark side. And where Anakin lost faith in those institutions, Kylo latched onto them. He was convinced that he had to be a part of this totalitarian regime. The only people who wanted him and could truly care for him were the people who just wanted him for his power. And that's what he did. He latched onto that power, similarly to Vader. And like George Lucas has said before, the dark side is a powerful drug. Once you start using it, you become profoundly addicted to it. Kylo Ren uses the dark side like a coping mechanism.
Oh my gosh,
that's
nice. Well, especially
keep going. You're melting my mind, man. I'm loving this.
And by the end of his story, it is a romantic love that has the potential to either drag Rey down with him to fall down the path of Anakin, but it has been selflessness. Not the possessiveness and selfish, I want to save you because I can't live with you. It has been selfless act of, I have to save you because the galaxy deserves someone like you to protect it, God damn it, and you're not going to die if I can stop it. It has been giving his life to save her. It is Anakin's story flipped in a mirror.
And And it works because there's one of the best lines in The Force Awakens, and I'm so glad this scene was included, was the, forgive me, I'm being called to the light, when he's talking to Vader's helmet. It's so cool to think that, it's amazing to think that that seed was planted so early, and you do see that growth, and you do see that flip, because at that point he's talking to his grandpa, and we know that he's not. And I love that thread is very small little thing, and then it's really completed when he goes to meet Palpatine in person. And it's funny because all Palpatine wants is Rey. He doesn't even want anything to do with Ben. I think that was so cleverly done, that he wanted to bring me the girl. The whole time was bring me the girl. And then just like Palpatine did to Anakin, a freaking pawn. Just another stepping stone, to get exactly what he wants.
He wanted all of the roadblocks.
Yes.
To him coming back.
Yep.
Off the board.
Yep.
All the people that could possibly stop him swept away.
Yeah.
Well, and
Ben Solo. What's up, Jared?
No, finish what you were saying.
Well, I was going to say Ben Solo is one of the few characters that stood up to Anakin. He stood up to Palpatine just like Anakin did later, and Luke did. All these Skywalker men were the ones like, no, I can stand up to you. Though he was tricked slightly at the beginning, just like Luke was in the throne room, and he was like, take it. You can strike me down. Vader stopped him from striking him down. It's really interesting to think about how the Palpatines have been woven. And then you've got Rey, who is the bloodline for a Palpatine, but does something no one expects. And, she sacrifices herself for the greater good of the galaxy. And then, like you said, Jared, beautifully, you said it so eloquently. I can't even say it.
Eloquently?
Yeah, eloquently.
Thank you very much.
He said that
for real did, man.
Ben had to bring Rey back. He had to redeem his grandfather in a very weird way. And this is where I get frustrated with people that are like, I don't understand I do not like what Strauss did. I don't know. I think it's undeniable that one moment is really good for what is happening in TLJ in The Force Awakens. I'm sold on it. I don't know. They did it better than I thought they could have done it. They redeemed this character that I thought was almost irredeemable, honestly.
Well,
I really don't know how they could have done it any better.
The one thing they do better is let him live.
True.
And I normally only say this kind of as like a thought experiment to just, get a little bit too real with Star Wars, because it's a fairy tale in space. With the whole, Vader saved his own kid. That does not undo the countless strangers he slaughtered. And I granted, I only get that cynical with it, just to be a tool. But with Ben, in The Rise of Skywalker, an amazing opportunity to truly pay off that scene that you were talking about, Scotty, to have when all the Jedi spirits appear. That fight is so poorly blocked. When they have Rey showing down with Palpatine, it should have been the both of them working together, and have the Jedi
I agree.
come to the both of them. And to have Anakin's spirit say to Ben, finish what I started. It infuriates me that they almost had that. To have that moment of, hey, this is your actual family talking, not this son of a bitch, not the son of a bitch I used to be that he wants you to look up to. This is me, your actual grandfather, with your uncle, with your mother. Kick his ass and kiss the girl when you're done.
Oh my gosh.
And
I want to stage dive right now into the crowd. That rocked so hard, dude.
Well, and in my opinion, I think that's how you do that scene better. But redeeming Ben better is to, in a very Zuko way, put him in that situation where it's like, okay, you saved this person that you love, and you've rejected the darkness right now. can you keep doing that? Can you save somebody who you don't know? Are you prepared to look your sins in the eye and clean this mess up? Or at the very least, do your best to clean the mess that is left. In my opinion, that is the better way you redeem Ben. And again, it's a problem that Star Wars
story for sure.
Yeah, and it's a problem that Star Wars and all Western storytelling has, that if you want to bring a character back from evil, that you kill him in the process. It's a symptom of Western storytelling that redemption very often ends in death. In my opinion, in some cases, unnecessarily.
It's very 90s comic book movie. I would agree with that, because one thing that I have kind of liked, a few more modern comic book films are a little more, we'll let the bad guys kind of continue on for a little bit. Like the Dark Knight trilogy for a little bit, they were like, Batman didn't kill, the villains didn't die at the end. They went to Arkham, right? It was just like the comic books, but it was very...
Or at the very least,
because back in the 90s, they would make all the Batman movies, and the bad guy has to die at the end of this. And it's like, but then there are no more, for one thing, there's no more adventures of Batman with these villains.
Yep.
But also, it's that mindset of this bad guy, this good guy, bad guy fight, bad guy accidentally kill self or fall off building or is brutally murdered by the hero or whatever, depending on what kind of movie you're watching.
Yeah.
If it's like a superhero movie, it's like they accidentally kill themselves, like Spider-Man with the Green Goblin. He gets hit by his own thing.
Yeah. Or Doc Ock lets himself die to save New York when you could have done more with Octavius. Now, granted, Doc Ock's my favorite Spider-Man villain, so I'm a little biased. But
I'm with you.
In my opinion, that's how you do his redemption one step better. Now, a lot of Raylos, myself included, are convinced that Ben is not gone. And I am sure we are going to see that story down the road. I am positive of it. I believe that with my heart of hearts. That is what we're going to see eventually.
I think
I wouldn't be against it at all. Honestly.
I'm willing to bet that we are going to get, not an episode 10. I don't think they're going to, I think they're done with the numbers, but I really am willing to bet that we're going to get a journey of Rey, because Daisy Ridley has not said anything negative. Like I want more Rey. Yeah, we've gotten John Boyega and Oscar Isaac saying, we're done with doing this. We're bored of this. But I really do. Adam Driver has never said that, and neither has Rey. So I think there is
go ahead. I'm sorry. I was just going to say.
You'll say it anyway. Here we go.
Please just give me 11 minutes. What were you going to say, buddy? What were you going to say?
Why, I've lost it now. I was just going to say the fact that I really do think there's another journey for these two characters, and the dyad thing is super strong, and I think the dyad thing will be something that will definitely have come back at a later day.
Well, 100%. Sorry, all I was going to say is I want, and Kathleen Kennedy has said, we're going to see the stories of these characters continue. Right?
Yeah, she has said that.
Give me the Disney Plus show. Give me the films with, like, I want to see more adventures with Rey, Finn, and Poe for one thing, but even just Rey.
Yep.
I do not believe, I'm sorry, that she stays on Tatooine. She's got the Falcon. She can go wherever she wants. I think she was just paying as much homage as she knew to them, making that almost a holy site or whatever. You can say it was for nostalgia for the audience, but I think it makes some sort of sense in the universe.
Luke grew up. That's an important place.
That's where Luke, it's a lot of important things happened on Tatooine, a lot of important things. And so that's where Anakin and Luke came from. But anyway, I don't know, I want to see those stories continue, man. I want to see Rey going on adventures. See if she starts, how she takes on the legacy of the Jedi. Does she pass it on? how does she pass it on? Whatever, Anyway, and I want to see her go after Ben. I think that would be kind of a neat story.
Definitely.
Yeah. Anyway, Jared, you were going to say something.
I just briefly, Oscar Isaac and John Boyega both seem very done. And granted, a lot of that comes from the fact that they don't feel Poe and Finn were done justice by the end of this trilogy, which, they were super keen on having Storm Pilot happen. I was super on board for that. The powerhouse of representation that this trilogy has been, and representation matters very much. And the idea of having a very racially diverse gay couple, that they were super on board with the whole Storm Pilot thing. I understand them being frustrated. I also understand the frustration that John Boyega, if you look at what was supposed to be in Duel of the Fates, got kind of cheated out of what would have been the ultimate culmination of Finn's arc being thrown out the window and kind of dumbed down with his arc with Jonna. And then with, they turned like the only Hispanic character in a mainline Star Wars role into what is essentially space cocaine dealing as a youth. I don't blame Oscar Isaac for being frustrated with that either. That said, Mark, Carrie, and Harrison all said they were done. And eventually they made peace with their experience. And Harrison Ford has always said, I don't hate Star Wars. It's just I think Han should have gone a different way. And to a point, I believe him. He just doesn't enjoy the press junket as much as they do, and unfortunately did. But I think maybe at some point down the road, once they are at peace with their time in Star Wars, they might be willing to come back. I just think right now, the wound of how Finn and Poe were handled is still fresh. That's all I want to say on that front.
I agree.
All of the discourse online as well, there's a lot of stuff. All the detractors of the sequel trilogy and stuff like that, are just like the people who were against Storm Pilot and things like that, right? It's very that if you are a dick enough to people who are trying to make something to entertain you, some form of art, right? Something that you love, that they think you're going to love, and you just constantly crap on them and stuff, it's going to turn some of these people off, right? But I think it's definitely a lot of what you're saying there too, Jared. And I don't think that it's too far off base that it could still happen.
Agreed.
If these characters come back down the line, you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So.
Well, I guess to kind of wrap this whole thing up, I really do think it's important to kind of, state how we feel about Ben Solo, and we've done that mostly through this discussion, but there's some final words that could be said. I can start. I mean, simply the fact that Ben Solo had a name change, a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde kind of thing go on. I think it's really essential to Star Wars that we finally saw a redemption that, was really to the heart, and like the Vader thing, I imagine in the 80s was almost kind of jarring because you don't see the human face to the very end, and then you see the face and then he's dead. And you're like, oh, that's kind of, it's so quick. It's kind of sad. But Ben, you get to see this really corrupt person get scarred and get beaten and then, get humiliated in each movie. Like every movie he gets destroyed. And as a viewer, you more and more feel for this character, whereas Vader, it's faceless, and Vader kind of wins except for A New Hope with each following moment, and you watch this movie and you watch this poor character really get beaten down, and his master's abusive to him, and it just builds and builds and builds and builds and builds. And then he thinks he's strong enough to pull someone to the dark side like he does at Rey, but he's not strong enough. He knows he's not strong enough. That's where he fails, is that he's not convincing enough. He's not scary enough. He's not Vader. And I love that they made a character that desired so much to be like his grandfather. He wanted so much to have this opportunity to be like Vader, but he could never be Vader. And I love Rey pointing that out too in The Force Awakens. You want to be so much like him. It's brutal. It's brutal.
And then ultimately becoming truly like his true grandfather.
Yes,
becoming the heart of, essentially the same heart of Anakin Skywalker. Which, again, Anakin. Man, he made the mistakes, man, and it was kind of a jealous, like, I can't live without you thing.
Yeah,
it got exacerbated again by Palpatine. Gosh, such a like little scamp, that guy. But like to come around and be like, no, he is truly, that's the heart of Anakin, is truly selfless to the point to where, like, I care about my friends and other people, more than my good standing with the Jedi, or with, like, I care more for others than myself in the early stages, right? But then you have Kylo fulfilling that in the end, which is just beautiful.
Yeah.
And I said that less eloquently as Jarod did a little bit ago. So
I like eloquently.
Well, I want to bring up one last thing. Filoni stated... You know how Filoni said in The Mandalorian, in that video, he said the Duel of the Fates is this huge moment for Anakin as a character that will change the whole course of his life. Anakin needed a father figure. He did not need a brother figure. Anakin left his mother figure to look for a father figure. And then you see this father figure role with each trilogy get bigger and bigger and bigger. Anakin loses his father figure, even in the original trilogy, Luke is desiring to bring his dad back, which he does. But then we see the repercussions of that. You see that Ben's father figure failed him because he's a flawed man. He's Han Solo, and this father figure aspect is super important. I mean, for me as a male, I identify with it a lot, and I think everyone in this chat probably gets to the same exact thing. You don't want to end up like your dad, because your dad's flawed, but you want to end up like all the good sides of your dad. You want to be this part of your dad. You want to be this part of your dad. You want to be this part of your dad, but you don't want to be the flawed sides you don't agree with. And it's sad because in some weird way, you inevitably inherit those flaws by accident. The way you maybe argue with your significant other, maybe the way you treat certain things or certain situations, you're like, oh my God, that was just like my dad. And I think Ben suffers from this father figure syndrome too, where he's like, I have my father's heart, where he does not want that at all. He wants his grandfather's darkness. Little does he know that his grandfather had a insanely sweet heart. Like his father has, like his grandfather had. I don't know. I think it's a really important thing that Ben Solo, like Jarod said earlier, was denying all this, but in the end, it's what he truly is, and he accepts it before his death, and he gives all of his heart and his love to Rey Skywalker, Rey Palpatine Skywalker. I mean,
it's a hyphen. They're a progressive couple. So, Rey, Palpatine, Solo Skywalker.
Yeah. Jarod, any final remarks? Or Jerry, do you want to say anything to round this up? I want to end on Jarod because he's so sweet and cute.
Thank you.
He's adorable, actually. He's quite adorable. No, just that Ben Solo is one of the more dynamic characters that we have gotten so far in Star Wars. And I mean, that's unfortunately a controversial statement. It shouldn't be, but I mean, never mind. We're all entitled to opinions. It's fine. But I think it's safe to say that Adam Driver delivers one of the best, the best performance almost every film, bar none.
Oh yeah,
I'd say like Mark Hamill delivers the performance of a lifetime in Last Jedi, but I don't know. Just what else can you say? Like Ben Solo is baby, so that's all I'll end with.
Jared, as our wonderful guest.
Thank you very much, and you guys are too kind.
Yeah,
I love Ben Solo / Kylo Ren. He, in my opinion, defines the core of Star Wars and the storytelling that it attempts. Every arc, every idea, every motif, every theme is in his story. All of the symbolism of Star Wars is there, all of the motifs. And again, for every time you look at Anakin, you can see the same thing reversed in Kylo. And that is it's poetry, it rhymes incarnate. One of the examples I wanted to hit on is the fact that the Battle of the Heroes and Rey and Kylo's duel on Kefir, again, polar opposites. If you love Darth Vader, you have to love Kylo Ren because it's the same story, only backwards.
Yep.
Darth Vader is born in a hellscape, hellfire, where he is gravely injured and left for dead. Ben Solo is reborn upon being healed in a baptismal water. Same story, just backwards.
Dude, that's awesome.
Jared, you get me. You just get me.
I try my best. You have a character who is
That's exactly what I was. When you started that whole thing, that's exactly what I was thinking. I was like, it's his baptism. It's his redemption.
That's exactly
really
what it is. That's exactly what it is.
And then all of his blemishes get taken away.
Healed away.
During that. Yes.
Yeah. And again,
Amen.
it's
Take
not
us to
by
church.
accident.
Yeah.
And again, I don't think there's another character in the Star Wars mythos that is as complex as Ben. You know, like I said before, he uses the dark side and this whole idea of Kylo Ren. It's also performative. It's also very much like what he, in his mind, thinks Vader was. And it's the brutality. It's the fact that, like, you know, oh, he's the whiny little bitch. He throws these temper tantrums. No. The dark side is so foreign to him that he has to force these fits of rage to stay rooted in it. This isn't who he is. You know, in The Mask, you have this idea that it's almost like a security blanket to him. He can hide the fact that he is Ben Solo when that mask is on, because it almost becomes a second skin for him. And that, again, he can truly become Kylo Ren when that helmet is on, and when he's around Rey, the helmet comes off, the mask comes off. Ben Solo starts to wake up when he's around her. And in The Last Jedi, so much happens to him where he's like, no, I am Kylo Ren. Ben Solo is dead. Fuck this helmet. I'm done with this now. I'm me, and I'm going to do this my own way. And he hypes himself up so much that when Rey takes him out at the knee and says, no, I'm not joining you. This isn't what's going to happen.
Yep.
He becomes so overcome with that, like, the helmet's back, by the rise of Skywalker, because he knows he can't face her without it.
Yep.
And that every time he recognizes the only way that... I think the reason he loses the helmet on Kefir is because he realizes, I need to look her in the eye. And that he almost or when he admits to her lineage, that there's a recognition for him that, like, you're the only person who sees through this act in the first place. So me wearing this helmet is kind of pointless. And they recognize that they both want the same thing, that they somehow, despite incredibly different lived circumstances, arrive at the same place of just wanting that human connection.
Exactly.
And it's just so profound, and there's so much going on with this character. His character speaks for itself, and the more and more you analyze it, looking at the greater mythology of Star Wars, and then extrapolate that further into the Campbellian hero's journey, there is so much to unpack with this character. And there's no other character like him. Plus, he looks cool as shit.
Jarod.
Dude. He looks
Great
sick.
ending.
That is fantastic. And I will say, I know the helmet is a little like, what's it doing in Rise of Skywalker? But I dig the red, like cracks.
It's cool as shit. It's cool as shit.
It's like, they can,
It is awesome.
Like, they made that thing look even cooler. What the heck, man? That's so many toys. No.
Well,
Jarod, you are the most eloquent, I think, of guests that we've had on in a while.
Thank you very much.
My God,
truly.
No, seriously.
That was beautiful.
I don't know. Like,
it's such a thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, seriously, because like this is what we truly love to do on the Bombadcast. Me and Scotty are silly, and we'll kind of like, do costume changes for a whole episode. And then sometimes we'll come around and we really like to just, really dive in, get our hands dirty, right? And just really dissect what's going on in here, talk about mindsets of characters, what they represent. There's been a lot of media these days. I feel mental health is very important to me and a very important topic to me these days. And there's been a lot of characters in modern pop culture, like fandom things that really kind of mirror journeys of a lot of us with our mental health, with like what we struggle with on the inside. They're almost like Kylo Ren's almost a personification of a lot of those issues. And so that's, I always love that. But before we end this puppy or whatever this is, why did I say it like that? Before we end this puppy,
awful.
I have my cat is literally sitting right beside me. I think I'm channeling his brain right now. He's very sadistic.
The cat's just sitting next to you.
Yes, it is Jack. Yes,
the
Jack,
cat's just sitting there like,
Bombad cat.
them out, all of them.
All of them. I feel like, honestly, all I can see right now on the monitor, because I've got the show notes up on one half of my screen, I can see my arm and the cat, and I'm petting the cat. I look like, I don't know if this reference is going to make sense to either of you, but I look like Dr. Claw from Inspector Gadget.
We're not that young.
Next time, Gadget. Next time.
I've seen Matthew Broderick in the movie. We know.
I see that, and anyway, watch the old cartoon. It's great.
Here's a fun deep cut. When they filmed the Matthew Broderick movie, they filmed part of it in Pittsburgh. My grandmother worked in the building that was kind of the stand-in for whatever evil corporation was there, which I can't remember because I haven't seen the Inspector Gadget. So gadget references are greatly appreciated around these parts.
Well, we'll bring him next time we're on.
I love me some Matthew Broderick, and I love me some Inspector Gadget. I loved Inspector Gadget before Matthew Broderick ever donned the fedora that contained a helicopter. But anyway, Scotty's like, what the heck are you talking about? Anyway, before we go, Scotty, though, I think I don't know. I'm going to put you on the spot. Jarod, I think we should gauge here. Scotty, where are you now on a scale of Reylo light to Reylo, or not to Reylo light? I think perchance you might be starting to fall into the Reylo light category.
I'm the free trial. I'm the Reylo free trial. I have not quite submitted to the Reylo premium
free trial.
I have the 30-day free trial. I might cancel it after the 30 days. We'll see. But maybe next time we have Jarod on, he might continue. He might let me make a new email to continue the free trial. So that might be the case. Know,
man. Jarod spoke so beautifully about it that there's almost no way that you can't be like tiny bit more on board.
Only way he can convince me is if he sends me some good softcore Reylo art. That's the only way. It's gonna be hardcore.
You asked for this. I hope you know that. And I will say this much.
I can't wait.
Oh man,
one of my best friends
is gonna love that.
And producer of all the Nerd Academy stuff, Joel Basenbach. He was a staunch anti-Reylo. And
Here we go.
And it was the lead up to the Rise of Skywalker. And I'm talking to him. I'm like, dude, it's poetry. It rhymes. It's the same story backwards. For him to be redeemed because of their love, it's so perfect. And we went into the movie, and Joel was on that Reylo free trial going in, where he was like, you know what? I kind of want to see it. He's like, I want to see it, but I'm not like, oh, Reylo. They kissed. Yeah. This man looked me in my eye and just went, you did it. And just kind of shook his head. I'm like, you're goddamn right I did it. I'm the Reylo witch doctor, motherfucker. Let's go.
That's amazing. I love
Scotty,
that.
I think the true test is to watch Rise of Skywalker now after this conversation with all of that in mind. Because for one thing, I've on the train here, Jarod, but I've never quite heard it put the way you put it, with that whole Anakin being redeemed, like losing his, like falling to the dark side because of romantic love and coming back due to familial love, and it being the opposite with Kylo, with Ben.
Beautiful.
I've never heard it put that way, and it's always been there. I see it plainly, but it's just hearing you actually say it again with those glorious words of yours. Really puts it into perspective for me. So, Scotty, go watch Rise of Skywalker. I've been multitasking. I'm doing it right now and stuff.
The only drawback is that the kiss hurts more now. The only drawback is when he collapses dead. It hurts a little extra, but
only drawback. Well, there is no drawbacks in this episode of the Bombadcast. I will say I am so happy to have Jarod on from the Nerd Academy podcast. And Jerry, any final words? Or Jarod, any final words to plug before we end this?
Yeah, like I said up top, the Nerd Academy podcast. By the time this episode of Bombadcast goes up, it will have already come and gone. But we have our news roundup of San Diego Comic-Con coming up. So tune in for everything you need from that. We have Knights of the Nerd Republic on Sunday mornings, the Nerd Academy on Tuesday mornings, Campus Life every other Thursday, and the upcoming Versus series on August 1st, like I said, Exar Kun versus Count Dooku. And then the next one is going to be Qui-Gon Jinn versus Plo Koon. That's all on our Patreon if you subscribe at the $5 tier. Dude.
Go check that out. Seriously, they run a very impressive establishment. It is a great establishment of higher nerd learning. So please, they're fully accredited.
What was I again? Didn't we get titles or no? I forget. Well, I thought I made a joke
when you showed up in your graduation robe.
That was it.
Jerry made a joke asking if you had. Yeah, you said you graduated from the Nerd Academy, and I said that you were voted most likely to stay Bombad.
I got my doctorate degree. I'm currently pursuing my master's. So I think now, boys, and everyone else, and so should the Nerd Academy. I think anytime a guest is done over a certain amount of times, they get like 4 times they get their bachelor's, then they or 2 times they get their associates. You know, gotta play into it, and then you gotta do 10 years to get like your PhD. So there we go. Can you imagine?
I love that so much. Joel's taking notes as we speak. Like he's frantically getting pen and paper.
We are marketing machines here. So yeah.
Since our last episode was so hectic, I wanna bless Jerry with the opportunity to give us. You know, we haven't been doing this, but we want to start doing this now. Giving our guests the opportunity to say the phrase that we end our shows with. So if we've got nothing else to say, Jarod, what should the wonderful people do?
The wonderful people, before they get back to class, should stay very bombad.
future or Bombad.